Hello everybody, my name is Brady and we are back with another React video, and today we're going to be checking out more from Extra History. We're going to be continuing the series on Justinian and Theodora. This is part 7, so before I hit the play button, we are at about the halfway point in this series. And out of anything you guys have told me going into this, one thing ended up being very true. It's long. It is a long series, and it's taken me way longer to get through it than I expected. Most of that is unrelated to the series itself. My recording schedule is just simply slowed down since I started it, but I'm very excited. Oh, hear that? It's an airplane overhead. Isn't that lovely whenever that happens? Always when I'm recording, like, can't they just wait? Can't they just save the airplanes for after I'm recording? Yeah, go overhead, dude. Go overhead. I don't know if you can actually hear that stuff. Sometimes it picks up, sometimes it doesn't. All right, so we are doing the cracks begin to spread. So things are going to start falling apart. Very interesting. It feels like things were just starting to pick up for Justinian, but I guess no leader is without their scandals and their problems. So, you know, especially one of the scale that Justinian is known for. And damn it, we need more Theodora to justify her name in the title, because, like, we've had other characters who are not in the title who seem to have played a greater role in this series so far, so damn it, we need more Theodora. It just kind of has to happen, so get on that Extra History from the past. We'll see if they do it this episode. All right, let's get it started.
Last we had left off, Belisarius had finally broken the siege of Rome. Reinforcements had arrived. The Ostrogoths had fallen back to northern Italy to prepare a last defense for Ravenna, the capital of the late Western Empire. It looked like soon Italy, the birthplace of Scipio, Caesar, and Augustus, would be back in Roman hands. But with new forces came new commanders. One of these commanders was Narses, the eunuch who had helped Justinian suppress the Nika revolt. Another commander, who had just started coming to the fore, was a man named John, who led the main cavalry detachment. When these reinforcements arrived, Belisarius ordered John to range north, to raid and loot and capture what he could, and to leave no enemy behind him lest he be cut off. John flew north with a speed and fury unmatched. He ravaged the countryside and scattered armies before him. Then he came to Oximus. Here there was a strong garrison of Ostrogoths, well armed and ready for war. He decided that his cavalry was not the proper tool for such a siege, and passed by this city on his way north. Then again, at Urbinus he did the same. But when he came to Ariminum, the Roman population threw open the gates, and seeing their defense lost, the Ostrogothic garrison fled. So John, knowing that Ariminum lay only a day's march from Ravenna, seized the opportunity and took the town, hoping that it would force much of the Ostrogothic army in the field to withdraw to their capital.
Damn, okay. The pacing has picked up big time from the previous one. We were going into something like super specific before, and now it feels like now that we've wrapped that up, the pacing has picked up so much, and I'm trying to keep up with it all. We're being introduced to new people and new areas of interest, and I'm just trying to take a second to focus in and try to figure out exactly what I need to concentrate on a little bit here, because, like, I get, once they start introducing me to a bunch of names, they start to lose me a little bit. It's very easy for me to get distracted or mix things up when they rapid fire a few names at me. So okay, John, Ravenna, let's do this.
And this it did, for the most part. But as the Ostrogothic forces retreated north, they strengthened their garrisons at the towns that John had left behind. So Belisarius sent swift messengers with word to John to abandon the town of Ariminum and rejoin the main Byzantine force. But John refused. And by twice not heeding Belisarius' orders, first by leaving uncaptured towns behind him, and then again by refusing Belisarius' direct order now,
this guy's kind of a prick.
Himself cut off, surrounded, and besieged. At Firmum, Belisarius called a council of war. All his generals assembled. He laid out his plan. They would take a cautious approach north. It was tragic, but he would not risk the whole army to save John from his insubordination. For the most part, the generals murmured in agreement.
I mean, yeah, like, I don't know what kind of force John has. I mean, yeah, you don't want to help John at this state, but I don't know how many people you're also leaving behind with him. I'm sure those forces would be useful under somebody else, but not at any like significant cost to the rest of the forces. So like, yeah, I get it. That's a pain.
But then, in the back, Narses stood up. With a wave of his hand, he said that John could be dealt with later if they were to relieve the city, but the loss of 2,000 of their best cavalry without a fight would be an unconscionable failure of command.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, 2,000. Yeah, that's a significant number. I don't know if they said that before. Maybe I missed the number when they were introducing the other stuff. I wasn't sure how significant it would be to leave them behind. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. I would probably not want to lose that either, especially with how vulnerable they were not that long ago. I don't think you want to lose so many of the gains that you've acquired.
Just then, a ragged horseman burst into the council tent. Having clearly ridden hours on end, he unsteadily stumbled toward Belisarius and handed him a letter. It was from John. His forces were on the brink of starvation. They could last 7 more days, and then they would have to surrender. Reluctantly, Belisarius agreed to Narses' plan. They would relieve Ariminum. The eunuch smiled. John was his friend, or at least his political ally. He was returning out of Belisarius' control. So Belisarius drew up a new plan. He would relieve Ariminum, but as was always his method, if he could, he would do it without having to fight. So he split his armies into 3 sections, one which would head to Ariminum by sea, one which would march up the coast, and another which would descend upon it from the mountain passes to the northwest. But the force that was to head up the coast wasn't to engage. It was simply to approach the Ostrogoths, and then at night light many, many fires, so that they appeared to be a massive horde. And then the next morning, the sails of the fleet would appear on the ocean, and the banners...
So many of these things, like the further you go back in history, so many of these strategies are just about tricking them into thinking you have more people than you actually have. And I love that as a recurring theme, not just in this series, but in pretty much every series I followed, I think, from Extra History that involved military conquest. But yeah, that seems to be such a common strategy. You'd think that people would start to expect it, but like, even if they did expect it, like, gambling on yourself being right could be hella risky, because like, what if you're wrong and they actually do have that many people? So like, I get it. It's just a funny recurring theme.
Of the remaining force would appear from the mountains, and the Ostrogoths, seeing that they were surrounded, would flee. And, unlike most things in military planning, it worked exactly as planned. As soon as the ship's sails appeared on the horizon, the Ostrogoths besieging Ariminum broke and ran. Had John's cavalry not been so depleted by hunger and exhaustion, they might have been able to end the war right there. But instead, a gaunt and haggard John stumbled out of Ariminum to be greeted by Belisarius, who suggested that he thank the commander of the sea-bound forces for his rescue. Instead, John answered that his thanks were to Narses. And the cracks began to spread. Narses and Belisarius disagreed on the strategy. Much of the original army was loyal to Belisarius, as he had seen them through so much, but a great number of the new troops saw Narses as their commander. After all, as they saw it, without him they would have lost Ariminum, John, and the 2,000 men with him, when instead they had easily driven the Ostrogoths back without a fight.
I mean, it's like, what have you done for me lately? Yeah, Belisarius has done so much, but like, who's most recently impressed people? People are fickle. And I can't imagine that much has changed since back then as far as people's fickleness. It's probably pretty easy to sway people if you've had the most recent success among the leaders that you're surrounded with. So, okay. I'm not fond of this John guy. I think he needs a good old... stomp on the back, put him in the Campbell clutch, make him humble, you know, Iron Sheik style. Because, like, I'm not a fan of his attitude. You thank the boat people.
Didn't this clearly show that Narses knew what he was doing? Besides, Narses controlled their pay. All of this finally came to a head around Mediolanum. Mediolanum was the second richest city in Italy. It had supported the Roman cause, and now it was under siege by the nephew of Vitiges. Belisarius wanted to focus much of the Byzantine efforts on relieving it. Narses said that this was inefficient, and he would take his forces elsewhere while Belisarius handled Mediolanum. But this was it. Belisarius was putting his foot down. He cracked out a letter that Justinian had sent that read, "In sending Narses, our purser, to Italy, we do not invest him with the command of the army. It is our wish that Belisarius alone shall lead the whole army as seems good to him, and it behooves you all to obey him in the interest of our state." But Narses, being well practiced in the ways of the court, seized on this last sentence and proclaimed, "Your plan is not in the interests of the state." Belisarius had no answer to this.
He's like, well, Dad said, okay, we're playing word games now. But really, this is, it feels like Narses is reading a bit in his favor here. I don't think he was it doesn't seem like he was invested with that level of power to completely override Belisarius in this case. I guess he's not, like, hindering him too much. He's just going off and doing kind of his own thing a little bit, but it doesn't feel like he's in the right here, but I'm not sure.
He would not risk open conflict with the second most senior commander, so he consented to march with Narses and John to take Urbinus and secure the road to Ariminum before relieving Mediolanum. And so the three armies marched, theoretically united but very much a tripartite force, with different commanders at its head. And when they finally got to Urbinus, they set up 3 separate camps. Shortly after reaching Urbinus, even though coming here had been Narses' idea in the first place, both John and Narses decided that it was impregnable and took off.
Oh, shut up.
Narses headed to Ariminum to threaten the Ostrogothic capital, and John charged off into the countryside to make short work of Forum Cornelii and collapse another Ostrogothic province. But Belisarius stayed, and with that remarkable Belisarian luck, in this town which every other commander had said was impregnable, a town that was so well supplied and so well defended, suddenly, and for no explicable reason, the town's spring, their only source of water, ran dry. Without water, the defenders surrendered to Belisarius in a matter of days.
I was about to turn around and be like, okay, I trust Belisarius on everything, but that seems like just dumb luck. This is not necessarily the best example to completely justify his thinking, though he's been right every time before this, like, except for that little thing with, like, Narses and John, whatever. One could argue that he was not necessarily wrong. Narses seems to be more right, but, like, I don't think Belisarius has had anything that would cause me to doubt him as a strategist, as a commander so far. I was just looking for a reason to confirm that, but this doesn't quite do it. Dumb luck is not going to get you any points, bruh. But good for you, though. Good for you getting that dumb luck.
But the siege of Mediolanum was getting worse. A force of 10,000 Burgundian warriors had crossed the Alps to join the Ostrogoths.
Burgundium.
This was
I like
far
their
too
mustaches.
much for the beleaguered Byzantine garrison to handle. Belisarius sent out a force to relieve the garrison, but when they saw the size of the opposing army, they stopped in their tracks and just stayed there outside the city. One night, a messenger from the commander in Mediolanum braved enemy lines and reached the relieving force asking for help, which they promised right away, but still they didn't move. Finally, the relieving army asked for reinforcements. They asked that they be sent John's forces, which were in a neighboring province. Belisarius agreed and sent the order to John right away.
I mean, John hasn't done anything good yet.
The relieving army in repelling the siege, but John refused. He would not obey the order unless it was countersigned by Narses. So, exasperated, Belisarius wrote to Narses to sign.
Oh, he's playing them off each other. Maybe John's the genius here. I don't know. There is something kind of clever about that. Assuming this is, like, well calculated, he's just not just hiding behind John because he's kind of a coward. It seems like he might actually be playing them off each other in order to get the best solution for himself, which is incredibly selfish, but it could be really clever. And, you know, I like some clever in my bad guys. I don't know. He feels like the bad guy in this episode, but these series are all based on like just a few guys' perspectives, and I don't know what John's side of the story is. I don't know if it was told from his perspective, Belisarius might not seem all that reasonable, but from this perspective, John looks like a prick. You gotta go to the top rope, hit him with the Spanish fly. 1, 2, 3, put him down for a 3 count, because I'm not dealing with this John guy.
Sign the order, which he did without hesitation, as clearly Mediolanum needed to be relieved. But then John fell ill, or at least appeared to, and the relief effort was delayed again. Reduced to eating dogs and mice, the forces of Mediolanum were in dire straits. The Ostrogoths offered the troops honorable captivity, with their life and their status as free men intact, if they would open the town to them. The Roman commander in Mediolanum replied that he would accept, so
I distrust
long as the people of Mediolanum weren't harmed. But the Ostrogoths made no secret of the savage vengeance they wished to wreak on this town that had so quickly embraced the Romans. Inside, the Roman commander tried to rally his forces for one last desperate sally against the force arrayed outside their walls. But hunger and fear had taken their toll, and so, with outside help apparently not coming, the garrison at last surrendered. Days later, the relief force finally arrived. They had seen dark smoke from the road. As they approached, all was quiet except for the crows. The walls were rubble in places. The great gate stood open. As they walked through, they were greeted with a sight of horror. Bodies and ash as far as the eye can see. Bodies in numbers unfathomable. Tens, maybe hundreds of thousands laying in the black soot. Every man in the city had been slaughtered. Every woman and child had been dragged off as a slave. Then the Ostrogoths had put the town to the torch, and nothing of it remained. Amongst the rubble, they found the body of Reparatus, the Praetorian prefect of Italy, and the brother of the Pope. He was barely recognizable, his limbs chopped into pieces, his body savaged by dogs. This was the first sign that the Romans...
Sounds like a propaganda opportunity, though.
The people of Italy, and things were only about to get worse.
Jeepers, man, that's some brutality. I thought we were going to be, like... I honestly thought we'd be veering away from this stuff for a little bit and we'd get some domestic stuff, but no, Justinian and Theodora are still minor characters in their own story. Like, this could be the Belisarius story. I mean, it's 12 episodes. If they cut that down to just a normal 6, this could have been the Belisarius series, and you just cut some of the Justinian stuff here and there, and it could have been. That's interesting. There's so much more to this than I thought there was going to be. Like, this part of the story. I just thought we'd get to this sixth episode and then we'd cut off and go to like a different stage in Justinian's life. But this is dragging in kind of a good way. Dragging has a negative connotation to it, but I honestly think like it takes its time in a really good way that ensures that I'm going to learn a little bit more about what they are teaching me. Like, if they taught it a little too broad, I might walk away not feeling satisfied that I learned a lot about anything, but I learned like a little about a lot of things. I'd rather know a lot about like a small bit of stuff than like a really small amount about a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Am I being clear? I don't know I never know if I'm being clear. All right. Thank you guys for watching. This was a lot of fun, and we'll be back with more Justinian and Theodora in the near future. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow with some more videos. Later.